All right. Good morning, everybody. Once again, this is Rev Bruce. This is Chat and Chew. I mean, Chat and Chew, that's who I got as guest, but this is Rev Bruce. This is Coffee and Chat with Rev Bruce. I have Chat and Chew as my guest, so got a little twisted up. But guess what? We are back once again. It's a weekly thing. Want to make sure that you understand you are in the right place. We're doing the right thing. And this is one of my, ultimately, this is like one of my, favorite things to share. And it is simple, right? And so when we get to it, right? When we get to it, success, we talk about success. Success is a journey. Success is a journey, and the journey starts with the dream. And so John Maxwell says the dream starts the success journey. And so let's think about it. Some people will never enjoy success simply because they don't even expect success. And some people, they're never going to see success because they will never, ever seek success. And then there's another group of people that are never going to see success because they don't see themselves worthy of success. And so think about it today. It's possible. This is what you can have. This is what you can do. This is what you can be. And so I want you to think deeply about it and think deeply about changing your perspective on what success is. And today I want to share a major thing about my mother, some of her friends, some of our family, and I'm going to bring them on. This is about Chat and Chew. This was the group that, my mother was real into. My mother, almost got me in trouble at church a couple of times behind Chat and Chew. But you know what? It's all right. It's all right, and it's okay. And as we go forward, I want to thank Apriva Hospice for everything that they shared with my mother. I want to definitely thank Plaza Village and the accommodations that they had with my mother. I want to thank my Aunt Marie and everything she was able to do in my mother's last days. But listen, cancer don't stop us. And so I want to bring forward the Chat and Chew crew. And here we go. Listen up, y'all. Listen up. This is the team. Chat and Chew is basically a group that, you all got together. You all had, good times. And talk to me about that. Anybody remember the beginning of Chat and Chew?
I was there at the beginning of Chat and Chew. Ellise and I used to go to the movies all the time. We were both empty nesters. We went to the movies all the time, and we found ourselves going to the same restaurants or the same place to eat after each movie. And we decided, we need to branch out. So what we decided to do was go to a different restaurant every time we went to a movie, starting from A to Z, not in that order, but just it had to be a different restaurant starting with a different letter in the name. And we told other people about it, and they liked the idea. And the next thing you know, right now we have like 120 people on our email list that go. Sometimes there may be 3 people. Sometimes there may be 40. We just set it out. This is where we're going on this date. And if they want to join us, they join us. But it's a lot of people that want to go someplace, but they don't want to go by themselves. Their husband won't go, or their children won't go. But they just want to be with other people. And that's what we found. And it just grew from there.
All right. And so I know at one point, right? Mm-hmm. At one point, you guys were trying to go through the alphabet A through Z of all the restaurants and places. Yes. From San Diego to the Lemon Grove Deli and everywhere, and DZ Akins and all that stuff.
Right.
And so what a lot of people don't realize is my mom worked for the Auto Club for a long time. And she used to always bring those maps home and say, oh, I want to go to this place. And so one of the things my mom believed in was exposure. You know, you learn more by getting exposed
Yes,
to more.
definitely.
And so I got to ask you this, Francis. When y'all started, how did my mom get you to make all them flyers and all that stuff for Chat and Chew?
Well, you know what? I like that part of it. I like the creative part of it. Ellise is more marketing, and she's like out there in public. I'm like behind the scenes. So I would make all the flyers, but she would go to everybody that even just walked past her, give them a flyer, and talk to them about what we were doing. That was her area of expertise, her marketing genius, I guess. So she didn't have to rope me into it because I didn't want to be out front.
All right. Well, I can take that. All right. So listen. Naomi B. Listen.
Yes,
How did
yes.
you end up leading the trip to Canada that y'all took?
Okay, that was our fifth trip. We had, the fifth trip, because when did we start? In 2011, right? With
2011, yeah.
2011, we just started with the going out and eating and everything. And then this old lady told us this is all we're going to do. So with Ellise, knowing she loved traveling anyway, so she planned all these things with her and France. And I jumped in and started putting my little 2 cents in there. And so we first started out in 2012. We went to Washington, D.C. 2013, we went to New York. 2014, we went to New Orleans. 2015, we went to Punta Cana in the Dominican. And then in 2016, we went to Canada. That every trip had a theme, and that theme was Pacific Northwest. So we went to Vancouver and Seattle, Washington, that area. So at that time in 2016, I know when we had planned this trip, the date and everything, it had a conflict with Francis had a family reunion that week. And then that was also when Ellise first was diagnosed with her cancer, and she was going to be doing some medical treatment, so she wouldn't be able to go. And with me, I had gone to all of them. And I think when we went to New Orleans in 2014, and we had a day there that we only had, we were supposed to go see how these floats was being made. Nobody wanted to go there, but Marie and Ellise went. So I said, yeah, we don't have this, where we want to go, to the swamp tour. And so I decided, so I told everybody, I said, I'm going to the swamp tour. And they said, oh, I want to go. So I planned that. And I guess that's when Francis and Ellise saw so that I could take charge, which they they hated when I took charge, but I took charge. Yes, and so and from there, and then when this happened in 2016, we didn't want to cancel the trip. And since I had gone on all of them, and plus with Ellise, she was so detailed. I mean, when I took over that trip, every day was written out. If you could read and follow instruction, I don't think anybody would have failed on that trip. But then they got jealous because I did so well that the people that went with me, they came back and gave me such a high review. And then Francis and Ellise wanted to just come down on my glory because I done good and they love me. But I didn't care because I was in charge. But no, and you know what? She was real good. She would give you the details, and she had already, she knew I liked to go and travel anyway. So, and I didn't have to worry about her micromanagement. If I needed anything, I could have called, but I didn't because it was well planned. And that's where all her trips were well planned because she got details. Francis did sending out all the emails and the brochures. And I just put my 2 cents in, but that was the one time that I was needed to take charge, and I did. And so now they know that I'm going to follow instructions.
Mm-hmm. But Ellise has more for detail.
Well, God bless you for stepping in. So let's say this now. Val, you were one of the few women, who were able to get your husband to tag along in this whole thing with Chat and Chew. And so how did that work out with y'all as a couple.
I just told him, put your shoes on and come on. Yeah, it was challenging at first. He really, he fought the idea because there was so many women, and he didn't want to go because there was always a lot of women. And when he found out on one trip that actually Jim Wilson was going, he didn't find out until he got back. And he says, Jim, what is it like going on a trip with all them women? And he told me, he said, well, Shirley had signed me up and I went and we had a good time. You should have been there too. So it wasn't really that hard, Sometimes, he would fuss about it and he wouldn't want to go. And the next thing you know, I'm like, okay, get your stuff together. We get ready to go. Put your shoes on. Come on, let's go. And once we start doing things, I think later on, Frances can vouch for that. She says, I'm going to put you on the mailing list. And Frances looked at him and he says, wait a minute, let me get my business card. Val, give us one of my cards. So no, it was not a hard thing to do. After a while, okay. Where you going? Where y'all going now?
Yeah. well, he got into it then.
He got into it. And he said, I didn't know y'all was having that much fun. I'm like, yep, that's right.
Yeah. All right. And so I want to know what for everybody, what was your most memorable event or trip with Chatting Chew?
All right. There were so many memorable.
I'm gonna say the New York trip because the West Coast Chatting Chew came to the East Coast, and you guys were able to kind of see everything in New York. There were some people from the West Coast that had never been to New York. So when Ellise and I first previewed the trip, because we previewed every trip before she would offer it to the Chatting Chew group, we took the train over ahead of time, and we just looked to see what kinds of things everyone would enjoy. And of course, The Color Purple was out, and that was a part of the trip in and of itself.
I think my most memorable trip was when the New York trip, but this was the time when we went through the Underground Railroad. And every trip that Ellise planned, it had a African-American historical, cultural theme to it, because she wanted to learn things that we didn't know before. And on that one was the first time I heard about the African-American burial ground in New York, right there on Broadway in New York. That was very interesting. Then we went up to Buffalo, and we had this lady dressed in period dress as Harriet Tubman, and she took us from the church where the slaves, hidden out in Buffalo over to Canada. That was a very, very interesting, informative trip. And I think I enjoyed that one the best because I learned so much that I thought I knew, but I didn't know.
Okay. Yeah, and that one, and when I went on, I loved it too, because I love all that history and all that stuff. And a few of us, when we went over to Buffalo, the reason we went to Buffalo, because we went to the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. And once we got to Canada, only about 3 of us went over to Canada, and we saw the falls. I'm telling you, that was so beautiful. You saw God in it. And I thought, oh my God, because we went on a little boat, the little boat at the bottom of the falls, so you can see from the beginning. We got all wet and everything, but that was wonderful. New York was my favorite. We've gone on, since 2012, we've gone on about 7 trips every year up to 2018. And New York was my favorite one. And then Washington, D.C., we went there twice, but both times that was really good. With the New York Canada trip, I mean, we had a ball, but it was so much historical stuff there. And like Frances said, every time we go to a city, we're going to go to a museum and we're going to see something historical. So, and we had a couple of young ladies, like 19 went with us. And each time they go, they're thinking that they'd be with some old ladies. They had more. They saw how much we have. They will join us. And in New York, one of the ladies had a little 19-year-old granddaughter, and she thought she could hang with me. She was so tired when I got to her, she fell asleep with her boots on. When we had so much fun.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I covered the ones that I remember and I enjoyed mostly was the New Orleans trip. You know, road, you know, the Natchez, you know, the boat and all the wonderful scenery. Now it's probably hard to believe. I'm from Louisiana, but that was the first time, maybe second time that I've actually went to New Orleans. And when I went, we were going, but we weren't going to do, you know, touring and stuff. But we've taken in all the sites and going even to the graveyard. I remember that. And I'd always heard and read about, and there was so many interesting things to do there. And the food, of course, was amazing. Not as good as mine, but but for New Orleans, you know, they got a different style of doing things. Everybody always used to joke, well, you're from Louisiana. I said, yeah, but I'm up by Texas. I'm not down on that part. You know, their gumbo is even different, you know. So, but I did. That was my most memorable trip. And I really enjoyed all of them, but that one was really special. And I had pictures. I had a picture that Reverend Bruce said nobody's going to be able to see, but I'm going to show it anyway. See this? And that was all.
Like I said,
Nobody can see it.
You see that picture? You see my picture, everybody? We was having such a good time. And remember, I was walking down.
A thumbnail inside of a thumbnail, like I said. Amen.
Yes, I just had to do that. Oh.
All right, and so when we talk about it, right? Just like, you know, and then I think that's Reverend Betty right there. That is ain't that her, Tracy?
Yeah, she's on. Yes, that's her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, and so she said it. You know, it's all about the preparation.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true. And she was a preparation person. It was all laid out.
Mm-hmm. She covered everything.
Everything, even your meals, your tips, everything.
She was very detailed.
Yeah,
very detailed in her research.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Speaking of research, I know that she was able to, for lack of a better word, finagle a lot of stuff out of me. But I know that she definitely got Tracy and my cousin Letitia, and I'm trying to get my cousin Letitia in the broadcast right now. But I know her research, and like when Tracy was at Howard for a minute, I didn't even know if she could go to class. My mom had her doing stuff, you know.
Yeah, she had me doing a lot of stuff, and she even had me reel in a lot of my friends who still lived in the DC area. When you guys had that Washington DC trip, I had to drive down a couple of times and check out a couple of the restaurants and make sure that the bus could park, make sure that the ferry, what time the ferry left, and get brochures, mail them out to her. I had to make sure that the bus could get on campus. If you know, you got
that was Ellise.
Yeah. So I had a couple of times I had to drive down to DC, which was fine with me. And I spent some time with my friends, and she even called a couple of my college friends and had them work. She had them working on things as well.
All right.
Well, you know, listen. This is going back to I'm gonna roll this with a little bit of intro. So I know there was a planned Death Valley trip that my mother was working on for Chatting Chew, and I was saying to me, I know because my mother loved national parks, right? And even though you got somebody in the White House that can't even pronounce national parks, you know, names, but
talk about Yosemite.
but when my mom was talking about this this Death Valley trip, and I was saying, now, wait a minute, the average age of your group is somewhere between 65 and 70, right?
No.
Oh, come on, girl, you better tell the truth and get to heaven real quick.
We young at heart.
You better tell that, right? But I couldn't figure out in Death Valley with primarily senior citizens, right? Some needing walkers and other stuff. I didn't see that trip as coming off as a thing. But Tracy, she took you and y'all went to research the Death Valley trip. Isn't that correct?
They sure
did.
Yeah.
Yes. That trip was horrifying. I mean, basically, we drove from San Diego to Death Valley, and we stopped at AAA. We got all the directions. We got places to stop, everything. We started the trip, and I was excited. And she's like, oh, yeah, we're going to be up in the mountains. It's going to be beautiful. And the closer we got to the mountains, the less road there was, literally. And we were driving up the mountain, and some didn't have guardrails. Some didn't even have the line in the middle of the road. And it was scary driving. Up until a point where I'm afraid of heights. So I got to a point where I pretty much stopped the car in the middle of the road, and I was ready to get out. And she was like, "Where are you going?" I said, "I can't do it." And I said, "Well, where are your glasses?" She said, "Well, I left them." So I had to drive. And I was like, "Oh my goodness." I mean, we white knuckled it all the way up the mountain. And coming back, we stopped back at AAA to let the guy know in AAA that his directions were horrible.
Oh,
and yeah, because it was a easier way to go without driving up the side of the mountain. But he said he sent us the scenic route. And I mean, even a couple of times we were just riding on gravel. I was like, are you sure this is right? And, because you hear so many stories about not using the GPS, which she was fine with because she loved maps. So she was perfectly fine with the map. But I'm like, are we going the right direction? Are we? I mean, because she could drive, and then she put like cases of water in the car, and I'm like, why you have so much water? She said, just in case we get stuck. And she had food and all this, and so I think you guys avoided that trip. That was
that never became a chat and chew trip. At the time, I was over 65, so I wasn't going any place near anything called death. So
that was my answer. That was my answer. I said, I'm not going anywhere called death.
Well, listen. When my mom told me, hey, I'm going on this trip, and I may not be able to be reached for about 2 to 3 days, because there's no phone service, there's no GPS. I said, wait a minute. You going to a place that's called Death Valley, and you may not be able to be reachable in Death Valley.
Yeah.
Right.
What was another trip, Bruce, that she went on and she didn't tell anybody?
It was
Where was that?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. Like I said, my mom could finagle, man. She could get some stuff and work it out. And so, my mom, during her initial diagnosis, right? We were, she asked me, what did I want for my birthday? I said, well, we always talked about taking the train
Right.
and riding up and down the coast and everything. And I knew she could only handle so much with chemo and everything at that time. And so I said, well, let's take the train to San Juan Capistrano.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to see the mission, and go check it out, look at it and do some things that I hadn't seen in a while. And so my mom said, well, we can check out some restaurants and we can do all that stuff. And so I've been to San Juan Capistrano several times. And so I said, okay, you want to do that? And I think I walked my mom around every corner and edge of San Juan Capistrano till I wore her out. When we got on the train, she might have been on the train about a minute before she was asleep. And while we had to wait for the train, she was leaning on me like, "Oh, when is the train coming?" I said, "No. You want to see San Juan Capistrano? We haven't even seen the whole thing. It's a whole other side of it." And so, that was probably one of the times when she was like, "You know what? I don't think we're gonna do this one."
Right.
That's true. Yes.
And when you think about it, with this whole gathering, right? For your part, can you sum up for me in one word how you would summarize your experience in Chat and Chew at that time?
For me, it was a fellowship because, like I said before, we previewed most of the trips beforehand. So that was a time for your mom and I to spend time just with each other. And then we would preview the trips and have a good time. And then we would, as we were spending quality time together, she was also doing her research for the larger Chat and Chew group. So I mean, in one word, it's just fellowship.
All right.
I think for me, in one word,
For me, it was the fellowship and the fun, because being with Ellise, she made you feel like that's how she got you to do a lot of stuff too, because she made you feel like you were her best friend. Nobody else, you were her best friend, and it was just nice. And then with her, she knew everybody. So now I have brought all the people but I know more people now with Chat and Chew, and it's such a good thing to get together and just celebrate different things. And so that's fun and enjoy being with you have a companion and everything. She was, yes, she was. The lady said she was a master delegator, and that's true.
Yeah.
She was.
That was so true. That was true.
But that for me, this has been such a good experience. Being here in San Diego with my family's back in the Midwest. So this is friendship, companionship, and everything, and fun.
All right, now that we have the 3-point sermon from Naomi, when I said one word, can we keep it at one word? Amen.
There is no way that we can do one word.
One word, right.
To summarize, you listen. Y'all been talking for 20 minutes. What do you mean?
Well, I know.
You had more than one word.
We can talk some more about this.
When it comes to Ellise, there's a lot to say. My one word plus would be educational. You could not go on a trip or anywhere with Ellise without learning something. I mean, she was a historian on museums and national parks, and every trip was educational with her. And you wanted to learn more after the trips. So I'm going to say educational.
All right. Thank you, Francis.
All right. Like I said, one word is not going to do it, but I'm going to try to sum it up and just say that is the most remarkable person I've ever met in my life. And I've shared this with her. I would have never seen all the stuff that I saw in places I got to visit without her planning everything out. And all I can say is I miss her dearly, and there will never be another. She's you can't replace her, nobody. And I think I was the favorite of all people.
You keep thinking that. Keep thinking that.
She made you think that.
I know that's right.
I think it's like Naomi said. It's the way my mom had a way of making people feel a certain way.
Yeah.
I can say in-house might she definitely had a way of making me feel a certain way. But I could see her flip the switch with people, you know, and it being different and people feeling, you know, invited and included and everything.
Yeah. She had that way about her.
That was cool. Let me tell y'all something, and then I'm gonna bring the Chat and Chew crew off, and Tracy, you stay on, and I'm gonna bring Letitia on. But listen, when my mom worked for AAA in Los Angeles, she worked just off, I want to say Figueroa or Sepulveda, and she worked in AAA, and she worked with this college intern that was at University of Arizona, and kid kept telling her he's gonna go play basketball, and be in the pros. And so I was like, yeah, you know, I think I seen him on TV. And my mom was like, he ain't on no TV. He ain't going nowhere. He need to go ahead and get his degree and get everything done. And probably about 6 months later, we end up with tickets at the Laker game. We sitting there about, 3 rows back, you know, me and my best friend and my mom. And my mom is bent the whole time. And then Byron Scott walks over and says, see, Ellise, I told you. And I just had to look at my mom. I said, I told you I saw him on TV. And she was like, no, you know, it ain't gonna last. And so I was just saying, you know, my mom could, you know, she could work on somebody, but she always stressed, like Francis said, that education.
That's right.
You know, and she always pressed it. And that's been something that she's instilled in a lot of people. And it's not just the education, but also the exposure. You know, and so listen, I want to thank you three. Listen, I know you guys are still doing Chat and Chew, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, and so you want to get folks to get on the Zoom, and I know y'all can't travel like you were traveling before, right? But you guys are gonna be doing some interactive stuff with the Zoom and things of that nature, and so say a little something about that before I let y'all go.
I'm trying to think what we can say. Well, we want to still keep people connected, and we want to still keep in touch with people and make them feel that they are not alone during this pandemic. So we're just going to keep in touch through Zoom. We're going to still chat and chew. We have everybody bring their lunches or whatever, and we'll chat and chew and see each other through Zoom on a going forward basis until this ends.
Yeah.
Okay, so how could they contact you guys? You guys ain't got a Chat and Chew Facebook yet?
No, we don't have a Facebook, or we don't have a website. The reason we don't have a website is that we don't want to advertise our trips, because a lot of us are older and we have empty nest. We don't want to advertise our trips or what we're doing, because then people know that you're gone. Yeah. You don't want to.
And
I don't know.
Let me tell you something. There is a thing of you don't have to post about your trip in real time, right?
Oh yeah, well we do post, we do let people know afterwards. We share our pictures and where we've been afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure, I didn't know I needed to do AARP safety class on here today, but amen.
We know about Facebook.
All right. So I'm gonna let y'all go. Tracy, you stay on, and then we'll bring my cousin Letitia.
Bye, Tracy.
All right.
Bye. Bye,
you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So listen up. This has been fun, but I also got to get into with you, right? So my mom, you your godmother, right? She what did she have you doing with these trips other than, you know, roping your friends in too? What was going on with this on the East Coast? You muted. You muted.
Okay, she had me doing everything. She basically had me collecting pamphlets of, if it was a museum, I had to get 40 pamphlets, or I had to make sure I had a contact person with the museum. So when her group arrived, they would have a personal tour, or they would have some kind of personalized attention when they arrived. We did, in fact, go to the burial ground in New York. We previewed that trip, and we also planned, we gave them all the dates when the Chat and Chew from California was going to be there. And they made sure that we had a docent to walk around to explain everything. She basically was very thorough. So anything that she thought of, she would email me the questions. Anything that she anything that she needed to know, I was kind of the point person on the East Coast for. And if she needed pamphlets or any kind of additional information or information that she thought would be good to hand out, I was to gather all of that information before they arrived.
So in essence, she had you as a personal research assistant.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And so how did it feel for you? You know, I'm gonna just open it up. How did it feel for you, Tracy Ellise, right, to be traveling with her?
Oh, it was amazing, because she always, like her Chat and Chew group said, it was always educational. We always did something surrounded with food, so in restaurants. And what I learned about seniors, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you going with those older people? You going with the seniors?"
Yeah.
But what many people may not know about seniors is they don't cut corners. Seniors don't spare any expense. They feel like they've earned the right to spend their money, so they're not counting pennies. So they want to go and they want to enjoy themselves. They want to have a top-notch experience. And so because of that, you always have a great experience with seniors. And
Okay.
again, going with her, it was she always did something educational. We went to national parks. We took a, just, this wasn't for Chat and Chew, but she and I had taken a tour of several national parks. In We went to Yosemite. We went to where else we went to the Badlands. We went a few places, and I always had a great time.
Yeah. Let me bring Letitia up.
Okay.
All right. So this is my cousin Letitia, right?
Hey,
Right.
after.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I guess your stream from Arizona was too powerful for the folks to be able to handle over here. So, amen.
I guess so.
Right. And so Letitia actually got the benefit of both coasts, right? Because she would be out here sometimes when my mom would be doing some of her local stuff and taking folks to Marietta's and all that. And then she also would go back with her mama and meet my mom for some stuff, you know? So Letitia, what was your Chat and Chew experience like?
Okay. Well, let me see. Well, when Annalise first told me about it, just like Francis said earlier, it started with the going to the movies and then somewhere out to eat. And I said, "Oh, that's a good idea." And then she asked me if I wanted to do it in the Phoenix area, and I said, let me think about it. But anyway, so then when they started to go on the vacations, and Elise would kind of tell me, but it was always in the middle of it. So I was like, oh man, I would like to go. So finally, when it was the New Orleans one, she told me way in advance when everything was starting. And I said, okay, I'm going this time. So that's how I ended up going. That was my only one, and obviously my favorite one, but it just went on from there. And so the next time, I can't remember why I couldn't do the one to, where did they go? The island. Shoot, Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
she didn't go, but they went. Yeah, they went, and for some reason I couldn't go on that one. And then afterward, but like you said, also when I would come visit to San Diego, then she would always say, "Okay, what you want to do? What kind of a excursion?" And we do all different things. So one of my favorite things there was when we went to the Holocaust Museum in LA. We did that. What's it? LA Live. One time we went there and watched on just a lot of different things. So then it became the norm. Whenever I was coming to visit, she would say, "What do you want to do?" And then we went to like Balboa Park and we saw the Titanic expedition, just all of that. So I always look forward to
the
huh?
La Brea Tar Pits.
No, not But
Yeah,
so
she
it was
wanted
always
to
a
talk this
thing.
out. She wanted to talk this out.
It was always a thing that was part of it. If I knew I was going to San Diego, then hey, we was going to go on some excursion, even though it was only one day in the trip. And like we planned this last time, of course, her and I together, just her and I, when we did the last boat ride to oh my God, what is it? Across the water.
Right?
Catalina.
Who?
Catalina.
No, the other one. The other one. With a hotel, Coronado.
Okay.
And
Oh,
she wanted
that's
me
not
to
a
take
boat.
the
That's
ferry.
a ferry.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. She wanted me to take that ferry boat, and I said okay. But
Yeah.
each time we would try to do it, it was going to be too cold or something. So anyway, when we did it in June 2018, when I was coming, we planned it, and we actually did go and spent the whole day. But it was still cold on the boat. But anyway, we hung out, went to all the shops, had ice cream and everything. We still talked about that. But then when the evening came, it was chilly and I was ready to get back on that boat and come back. And Annalise was like, come on, let's just do one more thing. I was like, whoop, I'm ready to go. But anyway, we always had a nice time like that. And I'm glad that was the last trip together, because that's what she kept wanting me to do.
Yeah. And so for both of y'all, she was a woman that ended up in I remember she left my dad and I at home and she went to Europe. She said, I don't know, y'all messing around, but I'm gonna go ahead and go. And went to Europe, and I think Betty was still in Germany at that time. And she went out there in Germany, France, did the whole thing. And I think she brought me a T-shirt or something from the Louvre. Like, what? Come on. But always the museums, the national parks, those things that a lot of people may bypass and miss out on. And she would look at them and see what was underneath it. And so if I could ask you personally, what did it mean for you to see her do something like that in her life? You know what I mean? What kind of inspiration was that for you, young African American women, to see her doing something like that in her life?
For me, I always thought that like we just did things off the beaten path. Like we went to Utah to the genealogy library. I was like, why are we going to Utah again? And I mean, and we spent, I think we were there 7 days. But who would think to go to the genealogy library? And we spent 7 days of researching her family history, my family
Mm-hmm.
history, um, just the whole idea of the Mormons. I mean, she whatever she had an interest in, she researched. And I think that is what I admired about her, because if she didn't know something, she was the first person to look it up. She would look it up and then she would send you 10 pages about it. And
Mm-hmm.
or if you asked her a question and she didn't know, she would say, "Oh, I don't know the answer," but she would send you pamphlets and books and all kinds of information about whatever it was that you had a question about. So, I mean, and I think she instilled that in me, that if you're curious about something, there's always a way to find out the answer.
Mm,
Amen. Amen.
yeah. Now, I want to say for me, like you said, the education part, like Naomi said too, even we went on the trips and we had the fun times, but it always was still something for education. We went to the museum, and later on, I found myself liking that part even more. Like I'm saying, that made the trip even more interesting when you try to go and find out and see, oh, what's the history of that, and do this. And so, like, I read, everything. And like she told me when we went to the Holocaust, come on, you can't read every little thing. We only have a certain amount of time. But then that's it. I like to read every single passage, whatever they say. Um, Here when she said the next time she was coming to Arizona, remember that time when y'all came, you, her, and Glenn, and we ran out of time. She wanted to go to that musical instrument museum in Scottsdale. I still have the pamphlet to come, but she didn't never get to go. But anyway, I remembered. I said, okay, Annalise said she want to go see this. But remember, she had us drop her off at that museum in Phoenix. And we went somewhere else. But she always like, I just want to go check it out. I just want to check it out. And I did like that. And I find myself saying, oh yeah, when you go here, look at this or look at that. People mention things, not just only the fun part, but education stuff too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I have to say for myself, most of the stuff that I disregarded or had trouble with and resisted, it still sticks.
Yeah.
I remember my mom used to talk to this lady who was a librarian and give me all them discarded books. And I said, what am I going to do with an almanac from before I was born? And all that. And so reading those, the encyclopedia of Negro history and things of that nature, still having those pictures, engraved in my mind from having read those books over and over again, and traveling to Canada and Solvang,
Right.
and Hearst Castle and all these different places that I was like, why are we going here? And trying to figure it out, but then talking to other people and say, what you mean you don't know about that? And realizing the degree and the depth of exposure that I had been given, that my mom, there's some stuff my mom, about me she didn't believe in, but then I know for sure my mom believed that I could write, what I mean? And so when my mom, took out of her time to take me to, UCLA every Saturday for those writing classes and everything, I was like, all right, looking back, that's not something you're entitled to. Your parents don't have to do that. They could just tell you find a way. But my mom also, while I was there, explored all of Westwood while I was there.
I'm sure.
And could tell me all sorts of different things on the way home of what she looked into and got into. And so for me, it's that delayed gratification and appreciation of what she was trying to instill in me and what she was trying to share with me through that exposure. And so I always have to, have gratitude for my mom for that. And we were able to talk about it, when I got older. We were able to talk about it and talk about different experiences and different appreciation. And so I'll say this for anybody out there, that's listening, my mom could tell you which way to go. And like Tracy said, she always, wanted to find out different things. And so let me end this with this and telling y'all a story on my mom. And so my mom and one of her girlfriends, I'm not going to name it because I don't want Tracy's mama to get on here and talk about I'm putting folks on blast. But my mom and one of her girlfriends traveled to D.C. with the intent of going to visit some young men at Howard University, and so they were hanging out and driving around, and they ended up somewhere on Pennsylvania Avenue, and they saw all the lights and everything, and the place was lit up, real big place, and they said, "Man, look at that gate and look at that big old White House. Who lives there?" Now listen, and talk about not being exposed,
Right.
not knowing that on Pennsylvania Avenue, the biggest White House that you're going to find with the biggest fence is the White House where the president is.
Yeah.
Like Virginia Slim said, my mama came a long way, baby. Okay. That was in her early days and just didn't know.
Right.
Just hadn't been out of Newark. Just hadn't been out of East Orange enough. It just hadn't seen enough.
Right.
And so I could say in the end of her days, right, she saw so much more than that.
Right.
Saw so much more than not knowing what the White House was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that experience, after she shared it with me, I think, in hindsight, that experience of not knowing what it was also prompted her to say, hey, you know what? I can find out. And I think that's part of who she was, right? You guys got any last words?
No, just we miss her, but her legacy lives on in Chat and Chew, and in you, and in your children. So, she left a mark on all of us.
Right. And nothing like this for just out of coincidence. Mom said that she just had a dream the other night that Annalise and Francis were somewhere. She doesn't know, probably on some trip, and they were riding motorcycles and talking to mom and saying something about, girl, we gotta go because we gotta get these bikes back or whatever. So she said that was funny.
Well,
Probably leading up to this, on some excursion again, riding motorcycles.
If it was my mama on a motorcycle, I'm gonna tell you like Biggie said, it was all a dream.
And it wasn't her dream too. Oh, that's too funny.
And so listen, Sister Betty, that's right. Amen. I mean, we gonna keep it a secret, right? We're gonna keep it a secret. Listen, hey, Reverend Betty, God bless you. Thank you for sharing with us. Hey, y'all, listen, we're gonna stay in touch.
Yes.
This has been good. Thank y'all for helping me celebrate, and give a little glory to my mom before her upcoming birthday. And it's one of them times, right? That we cherish. Thank you, Brother Webb, for sharing. And just God bless it.
Yeah.
Listen, it was hard. It was hard to hear the doctor say, I don't know how long you got, but I know you're going to die from this.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's hard to sit there and hear somebody say that to your mama, where you can't, you can't, just pick her up or do something. And so, even when she was losing it, she still had faith.
Yes, she did.
And it and even for me, sometimes I was like, man, I don't know if I matured to that point.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's God bless her for taking it on, the way you did, and so God bless, everybody. Listen, Have a great day.
You too.
You
Celebrate somebody,
too.
you know, and definitely love more today.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
nothing else that we know, all we got is today for sure.
Yeah.
And just love more today and be an inspiration to somebody today. God bless.
All right.
And
God
Bye-bye.
bless you.
great day.
All right.
All
Bye.
right. Have a good day. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.